I've developed a recipe over the last 11 years living abroad. I want to share what you need to know, how to choose the right country for you. Ciao everyone, welcome back to my channel. This year has gone by so fast, and one of my favorite seasons in Belgrade is wintertime. I know some people just don't like winter, but I am a January baby. I love the cold, and winter in Belgrade is not that cold. It doesn't really feel like winter until like January, actually. So going out and about, walking around the city, even for my hot girl morning walk, it was so nice because it's so sunny today. Days where it's like not sunny and a bit gloomy, people are still out and about, especially at the cafes and meeting with their friends. So this city is very lively, even when it's cold, sunny outside, gloomy outside. It's just, there's a liveliness in the city. And now that we're at the end of the year, I know many people are getting ready for the holidays. For me, I'm getting ready for Hanukkah. I'm really happy. In fact, my rabbi came yesterday and put some mezuzah on my doorpost. I will be going to a Hanukkah party next week. So I have my holiday preparations I'm really, really excited for. So today's topic, I want to share how to pick the right country for you, especially if you're a first-time expat, you've never lived abroad, you've been dreaming about living abroad, and even if you're an experienced expat. I've developed a recipe over the last 11 years living abroad, and many Americans, Canadians, Australians, Brits are considering or taking the steps to leave their home country. I want to share how to choose the right country for you. Let's get started. You want to live abroad. You've done your research on YouTube, you Googled, you joined different expat Facebook groups, but you don't know which country to choose. First, you have to understand, what is your lifestyle? Are you a person that likes to live in the city? Are you a person that likes to live in the suburbs? Are you a person that wants to live in a rural area? Are you a person that wants to spend a lot of money on rent? Do you want to buy? And especially, you have to consider your family size. Do you have a pet? And I tell my clients, because I provide relocation services and I'm a spokeswoman promoting citizenship by investment in the Caribbean and on the African continent, I ask clients, what type of lifestyle do you live? If you have a family and you have children that are in school, or if you're retiring, you want to be able to choose a place where you can comfortably live. And why I chose Belgrade is because it's a city of about 1.2 or 1.5 million people. You have other neighborhoods like the city center, Dorčel, Vračar, Dedinje, Senjak, Vojvodinje, I think, and Zemun that are really popular spots for expats. When I was living in Bangkok, for example, another great city to live in, especially as a first-time expat, Bangkok has about 10 million people, maybe a little bit more since I was there about 10 years ago. So maybe say 12 million people. It's a very lively city. There's a lot of trains. There's a lot of people moving in. It's very transient, especially as an expat. And I don't think it was great as a single child-free woman. If you are married, if you are retired, great. Especially if you're a man, that city is like your oyster. So consider, are you a big city person? What is your family composition? And how do you want to get around? Which leads to my second point. Number 2, transportation. Now in the United States, we are very much of a car country. It's just not true for most parts of the world where you have public transportation. A lot of people use the trains, they use the buses, they use the trams, they use the subways to get around. So for me, as a single child-free woman, I knew that I want to live in a city that is very walkable, that has great public transportation. Belgrade has great public transportation. It's easy to get around, especially if you live in the city center. When I lived in Bangkok, you have the SkyTrain, you have the subways. It is very hot, but you can walk around. When I lived in China, great trains, great subways. So you have to ask yourself, do I want to buy a car? Having a car is an additional expense, though it gives you more freedom, especially if you want to drive to nearby countries. And having a car definitely does give you freedom. But a lot of people who live in Belgrade always complain about the traffic and lack of parking. I don't know, I gave my car up 11 years ago, but especially during summertime, people can easily just drive to Montenegro or Croatia or go to Vienna. So having a car, while it is an additional expense, gives you that freedom to drive around. And at least when I was living in Bangkok and Singapore, it was very difficult to get a car, especially Singapore. They make it very expensive. They make it very, very difficult. I know some foreigners that did have a car, but again, it depends on you, your lifestyle. If you have children, maybe you don't want to have to take the bus. But there's nothing wrong with taking the bus or the tram or the subway. So that's number 2. Third is community and friendships. You want to live in a country where it doesn't take forever to make friends. Some cultures are very, very closed, and it can take years, if not decades, to make friends. I know that, for example, when I was in Japan, I felt so isolated because at one point when I was teaching English, I thought maybe I should move to Japan. And I knew within like 3 days, like, this is not for me. I don't know the language. People are very closed. They're polite, but distantly polite. And it was just not for me. Whereas when I lived in Bangkok or even Almaty or Istanbul, I did form friendships. People are open, people are genuine, whether they're local or foreigners. People are open to making friends. Living in Belgrade is easy to make friends. People are open, they're friendly. People meet for coffee, or in my case, tea. People here are very outdoorsy. So you want to make sure you live in a place where you're not only just stuck to being indoors. Go out, talk to people. It is okay to talk to strangers. And in regards in how to build a community, you need friends, you need maybe coworkers, you need people that you see at your grocery store or your pharmacy. Like, with Americans, we're so individualistic in the sense of like, I can do everything myself. I don't need anybody. I'm on my own. And that's just not the case when you live in a country where it's more of a collective effort to coexist, to live, to help each other. I feel very much that way here in Serbia. I felt that way in Almaty. I felt that way in Thailand. First 6 months to a year, you really need to put yourself out there. You need to invest in your friendships, nurture those relationships. And I think in time, you'll be invited to birthday parties, to weddings, to dinners. You can have a beautiful life, but you have to put the effort. And the cost of being part of a community is inconvenience. And one last thing, I'm part of a religious community, and I know it's cool not to be religious today, but being part of a community where you can pray and commune with people, celebrate holidays with, it's really, really beautiful. Number 4, you want to live abroad and find work, which I really don't recommend for my clients or for people. Like, it's best if you're going to live abroad, start a company. Even if you're working remotely, set up something. But if you're going to come and you have a job offer, you want to be able to make sure that it is easy for you to thrive in the economy. So whether in the workplace or you're an entrepreneur. Serbia, it is easy to set up a company. You just can't rely on the local market to really earn a lot of money. My goal over the next 2 years is to become a millionaire. So I've had to expand my business. I had to make things much more global. And I know many Serbs leave because you can earn more abroad. But I do know foreigners who have set up their companies here, and almost all their clients are international. So that's the direction I'm going in. And for those foreigners that I met here that work at international companies, or they're diplomats, they're married to someone that's working in the corporate world, it's really important to choose an economy where it's not so competitive, where if you do lose your job, you can get another job. Setting up a company in Serbia is great. When I was living in Paris, it was literally impossible as a non-EU citizen to set up a company, to open a bank account. Paris is not for entrepreneurs. Let me know if you're in Paris and you set up a company. And I've met French people who are like, yeah, that's not a place to set up a company. Setting a company in Bangkok or Singapore, you need at least 100,000 euros in capital so you can be able to sponsor your own visa, or you're married to someone and you don't have to worry about sponsoring your own visa. It's kind of the whole game of like, how can I legally live and do business in a country? And you want to look at the economy and the stability and the ability to have a global business and not rely on. Number 5, so that's something else. It's so important, especially for women, to feel safe in a city. And living in Belgrade or Bangkok or Singapore, even my time in New Zealand, it was really essential that I could walk everywhere and not be harassed or catcalled or followed. I could easily cross the street. In Belgrade, I would have to say, is one of the safest cities that I've lived in. It's super safe. No one is harassing you or bothering you. When I lived in Bangkok, which is interesting because it's actually quite dangerous to be a pedestrian because people can get hit by the tuk-tuks or the motorbikes. So you have to be very hyper vigilant. I actually met someone who was hit by a bus. She was just walking, and the next thing she knows, she wakes up in the hospital. And it can be very costly if you get injured in a foreign land. So you want to make sure you live in a place that you are safe in, where it's safe to be a pedestrian, where it's safe to be a foreigner, because Europe, unfortunately, is becoming very, very anti-immigrant and anti-foreigner, and that's a different topic. So you want to live in a place that's welcoming other people and people don't resent that you're there or that you're trying to steal their jobs. I felt that very much in Singapore. Many locals who are as educated, as globally minded as some of the expats, there was just like a growing resentment of these foreigners taking their jobs, especially management jobs, especially banking jobs, especially finance jobs. Luckily for me, I was not trying to take anybody's job. I wanted to set up a company and live there. So just be aware. Many people in Portugal or Spain, they feel like with all these Americans flocking in, it's just driving up the prices. So you don't want to be one of those people that locals see as you're making cities too expensive for us to live in. And that's something really seriously to consider. Number 6, a healthy lifestyle and being able to afford to take care of your health. Now, for many Americans, the way our society is designed is not to be healthy. We sit to commute to and from work. We're sitting all day at our jobs. To go to the grocery store, you have to drive. And this is not the case in many countries where it's designed for movement, where it's designed for pedestrians. So many European cities like Belgrade, people are moving around a lot. People here are naturally fit because you're not sitting all day in front of a TV. You're not sitting commuting to and from work all the time. I mean, I know people have cars here and drive to and from work, but it's just not the same where many Americans have to commute an hour plus to and from work. I have my sister, she commutes 2 hours to work, and then you're sitting at work for 8 hours. It's just not healthy. So if you want to live a more healthier life, it's very easy to do that outside the US, because if you ever get sick abroad, you have options to go to a private clinic or a private hospital or a local hospital if you're tapped into the universal healthcare. Personally, for me, I pay out of pocket to go to doctors or to go to my gynecologist or go to my dentist, which is really, really affordable. So I would say it's very easy to live a healthy lifestyle and take care of your health and also your well-being, because in most countries, your work is not your identity. In the US, we very much know what you do for work is much of your personality, your identity, how people respect you, determine where you live. And that's just not exactly the case in many countries where, okay, that's what you do, but who are you as a person? I think we're at number 7, the ease to travel around, enjoy life. Now, in the US, when it comes to holidays, you get the 2 weeks of unpaid holiday depending on the company you work for. But in Europe, in Asia, and even on the African continent, people really enjoy holidays. Holidays can be for weeks at a time, and depending on your income bracket, it can be multiple times the years for weeks at a time. And if you have the ease to travel around and enjoy your life and enjoy the money that you earn, that's going to really compound of you integrating into the country. If you're always stressed and working and family life and all of this stuff, it's not going to be easy to really enjoy your new home. So example, here in Belgrade, a lot of people, especially during the summertime, they go travel to Italy or go to Croatia or go to Montenegro or go to the Maldives or wherever. The city is pretty much empty. And there's mostly foreigners like myself here in the summertime because people go on holiday here. And even when I was living in Thailand, people go on holiday. So you want to live in a place where you can not only just afford to go on holiday, but really easily travel to a neighboring country. And the US is such a big country. Yes, people do travel to other nearby states, but it's actually really, really unaffordable to fly, for example, from Boston to San Francisco. I think that's by design. We purposely make travel and enjoying your holidays or vacations very expensive, very difficult. And in many cases in the workforce, people make you feel guilty for actually taking your holiday or your paid leaves. And that's just not the case when you're living abroad. In many countries, it's like, yes, good, go on holiday. It's good for your soul. It's good for your well-being. And lastly, affordability. You want to live in a country where you can live comfortably. You're not a citizen, so you have to completely depend on yourself. And it's good to have community and friends and family, but you don't want to live in a place that's so expensive. That's why I left Paris and I left Singapore, because it was just too expensive for me. As a single woman, I didn't have a spouse that I could lean on. So living in Belgrade or even in Istanbul or even Almaty, Kazakhstan, great places for me. I'm happy here. I'm happy that I'm focusing my business to have international clients. But if you're going to choose a country, make sure that you can afford to live on it. And especially if you're an American and you do want to maintain a certain income, if you make over 100,000 or 200,000 or more per year, and you want to have that same equivalent, you need to either have your own business with foreign clients or negotiate with a company that recruits you to work to come to a new land that gives you the same salary. And most companies don't do that unless you're the CEO or work in the C-suite, because many provide expat packages like housing, a driver, cleaners, depending on the world where you live in. You can get some really nice expat packages. So the eight, I lost count. The 8 ingredients for my recipe if you're going to choose a home abroad. We're heading into 2026 and you're considering moving abroad, definitely send me an email, check out my website. I redid my website at blairandbeyond.com, or leave a comment below. And if you're a seasoned expat like myself and you plan to move, considering moving abroad in 2026, and you want to either buy a property or even acquire a second citizenship, I'm a spokeswoman for NTL Trust, where it helps clients acquire a second or even third citizenship in the Caribbean or the African continent. Earlier this year, I was in South Khmer and Principe, really interesting 2-island nation on the coast of West Africa or the Caribbean in places like Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Kitts and Nevis. The world really is yours, but you have to have a strategy and a recipe to choose the right home for you. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for getting this far. Bye!